You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
Boss, you opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you Meatloaf Jack! Surprise, Sydney.
Welcome to How I Met Your Monster, the show where we discuss the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. Make sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts because you don't want to miss an episode of this wonderful, wonderful show. I may be biased, but that's what I'm here to say. And now here we are wrapping up our third and final movie in our Car Trouble triple feature with Rob Savage's Dashcam. And according to IMDb, which I think this is a little misleading, the IMDb synopsis says, two friends embark on a horror-fueled road trip and live stream the most terrifying night of their lives. And that is very misleading.
So that was
It's not really what it's
that
about.
was also the one that's on Hulu. And
Okay.
I
Interesting.
read it quickly before I started the movie, and I thought that it was going to be like Spree, like where they were live streaming
Oh,
them
I loved Spree.
terrorizing people. So I was looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And that's not
Casey's
what we
like,
got.
what is this?
And Danny, you picked this one. Tell us why.
We were watching Rob Savage's Dashcam. It's his follow-up movie to the 2020 kind of pandemic horror movie that was the Zoom horror movie that came out like peak pandemic that got a lot of buzz, rightfully so and deservingly. It was a really good, really creepy, effective, I guess, possession movie, Ouija board, seance-y kind of movie.
Something about I would say like they speak some words and
and then
spirits
shit
come
goes
to-
south. Yeah,
And what's the title of that movie?
that is Host.
host.
Okay.
Yes, which is very fitting because you need a host for a Zoom sesh, and they're taking host to the bot. It's very clever.
Yes.
But this was his follow-up movie, and it was through Blumhouse. Blumhouse took a liking to this little team. It's Rob Savage, Jed Shepard, Gemma Hurley. That's the writing, director, producing crew. And they came on board for this one. It's a very similar kind of style, aesthetically, and just technically, I guess.
Yeah.
Only in this case, it's about this character. It's actually based on a real person, Annie Hardy, who does these kind of like live streaming sessions while she drives, and she does, she raps and she does what would you call it when like when you, oh my god, what is the word?
Beatboxing?
Like improv.
Oh,
Yeah.
just like freestyle.
This is the nerdiest I've ever been. Freestyling, improv rapping.
That's what I was thinking too, though.
it's called Band Car. Yeah.
Band car, that's right.
Yeah.
And and it's the same idea, except in this case, later we'll get into the nitty gritty, but it's about her live streaming her show, and throughout the movie, you get you get the live stream comments that you'll see if you've ever watched one of those on Instagram. I guess Instagram's really the only thing that I can think of because I'm not a TikToker, so I don't know if they have that.
Yeah, they do.
But yeah, it basically, and again, we'll get into it, but it makes for a very kind of disorienting watch, I would say. Oh, we lost Casey.
Shut up!
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
As you were saying.
Before Casey's world literally flipped upside down.
You know, it's one of those things where it's basically, I don't want to talk out of my ass because I don't know enough about this person or her beliefs or anything to form a solid opinion.
Right.
But it's hard not to, you know, whether it's on Letterboxd or just Googling the movie and finding articles and interviews, it's hard not to hear some strong opinions from people who weren't the biggest fans of Annie Hardy, specifically because of, not just because of kind of abrasive personality, which you see in the movie, but also because of her political beliefs. Obviously, the character in this movie is very much, I mean, if you didn't, she basically, what I'm trying to say, she doesn't hide her political stance, whether it is all for show and she is just putting on a huge performance just to get a reaction, which is kind of what she's doing with her show anyways. Like, is it, you know, oh my God, I'm like blanking. What is that phrase when it's like, you're basically performance art, but like in the real world. So you can't like tell, like
you're showboating.
Yeah. Like Andy,
it's not showboating.
Andy Kaufman.
Oh,
you know how Andy Kaufman, like the big question with him was, which part is the performance?
Right.
Is he Andy Kaufman when he's on stage, or is he Andy Kaufman when he's not, quote unquote, in character? And which one is the character? And that was kind of how he got off in terms of getting a reaction from his audience.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know enough about this character to form an opinion. But there are a lot of people who said that they didn't love the movie because of her, or couldn't support it even because of their political differences.
She complained about people not liking her afterwards and it, quote unquote, ruining her life. So I'm assuming that since it is based on her, since it's she's playing herself, if those aren't really her beliefs, I don't know why she would pretend to be such a fucking moron. If it were a different person, if they didn't even use her name.
Yeah, it's hard to separate the character from the actor. Yeah.
I had read that it was an exaggerated version of herself. So to say like, does she have those beliefs? And then this just took it to another level. Like she went crazy with it. Or is that just something they did for the movie? Because like I say that because I feel like, and I don't know the answer, but I have this very strong feeling that there is something to do the whole anti-vax Trumper whole thing that she was in this movie. It has a deeper meaning in the story than just what's on the surface, because
100%
at the end, we'll find out that there's a lot more going on that could tie into like the cultism or whatever, and people like getting deep into these groups of beliefs.
But I just don't know why she would play herself if that's not what she believes in.
Yeah. I think that's the tricky part, because this whole movie it's all about like exaggeration. Like Zach, to your point about how this has this deeper meaning about, you know, Dashcam is very obviously talking about a very specific time in our very recent history. So we're all very familiar with it. And so clearly whatever they're trying to say has some sort of like, there's something behind the curtain that they're trying to symbolize. And I think that's the tricky part, is by having her play herself, it messes with like what they're trying to say or what the message is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Although I would go so far as to argue that I think that the conversation we're having is the point, and that the filmmakers wanted us to feel disoriented, even like in that almost breaking the fourth wall kind of thing. Like it's all fucked up. It's all crazy. We went through an absolute nightmare during the pandemic. Everything got torn apart and changed.
I would rather go through lockdown for another year than watch this movie again. So,
what if you were in lockdown and this was the only thing playing on every station on TV.
I can't even say what I would do.
You didn't have any other form of entertainment. You didn't have any books. You didn't have any drawing materials, any art supplies, anything.
Fine.
You just had a TV that played this on loop. Would you ever turn it on?
What floor of the building am I on?
Luckily for you, you're on the first floor, so you can't harm yourself.
Oh, well, I'll have to find another way. Yeah, so this is all three of us, our first time watching this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do like the idea behind the movie. Like you were talking about with the cult-ish, all that extra stuff going on at the end. Plus the idea of it being a point in history where social media is so important to people. Even though it actually shouldn't really be. But it's so important that, like, she had her phone the whole...
Because we're so closed off.
Well, she had her phone the whole time and could have called somebody to help her or do something the whole time. And she didn't because she had to live stream. And...
Well, didn't Dude call the cops at one point? Didn't Stretch call the cops at one point?
There were people in the comments of her live stream saying that they were going to call the cops.
Oh, okay.
Which...
Yeah, and he does make a call, and I think it just doesn't go through, or that's when he gets attacked.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, that's another part is the people who were watching. So a big part of it is just, you know, like our culture now is just watching this stuff and not doing anything about it because you're just watching the live stream and it's cool to watch the live stream. But do you guys know what bystander effect is?
I've heard of it, but I feel like you
Oh.
could paint a much bigger picture for us.
So it's also called the Kitty Genovese syndrome. Kitty Genovese was a woman in the 1960s that was murdered. She was stabbed to death in New York, outside of and in the foyer of her apartment complex. And there were over 30 witnesses, and nobody called the police. Because the idea, somebody called the police, but it was way too late at that point. Like, this person had watched her get stabbed and watched her crawl into the foyer, you know, while she was dying. And then somebody ran out of their apartment and screamed, and then that person called the police. Anyway, the idea is that if you have the idea that there are more people there, you're always going to say somebody else will take care of it.
You're right. Okay.
So
Totally.
when you're driving on the highway and you see somebody with their car pulled over, if somebody else will help them, I'm sure. Look at all these people who are driving. But all of the people who are driving are thinking the same thing that you are.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of, you know, also played a part into what they were doing while they were watching was, you know, there's plenty of other people watching this live stream. Somebody else can call the police or the authorities.
There's even some of them who aren't convinced that it's real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's another kind of topic that we're all sort of familiar with, that you can't really believe anything. Like even before deep faking and all that, it's just, if it's on camera, you can get away with so much these days with just basic filmmaking techniques that it's hard to sort of, it's easy to assume that everything is meant to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
and that's the thing about this movie. I'm watching it and I'm like, I genuinely was just, I remember, because I usually have my phone with me, my Google Docs is open and I'm going to like take notes. And the second it started, you have, not only is it, you know, the live stream, which is like shaky and chaotic enough, then you have the comments. So I literally out loud was like, oh, then this is going to be.
Yeah, it was
hard.
a lot to take in right at the beginning. I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
But I think that was the point. I think they went out of their way to mess you up. I think it's all by design. I think the grotesqueness, like the visual, like the grotesque visuals, but also the grotesque personalities and the disorientation and the chaos. I think this is one of those movies, again, because it's a quote unquote like pandemic COVID movie. I think in a few years, people are going to appreciate it a little bit more. I do think it's a little too soon. I just think it was all very deliberate. I think we'll look back at it as oh, wow, this movie feels like it felt at that time, where everything, you couldn't connect with anything. It was so hard to process the information you were getting, or or what was happening, or how dark it was, or how isolating it was. But more than anything, and Zach, you mentioned again about the cult, and literally by the end of the movie, spoiler alert, the monster character, Angela, who we're following, you find out actually has like this monster inside of her that it's been playing host to. And maybe this is too on the nose, and maybe I'm trying to dig into this too much. But during the pandemic, political affiliations aside, people were kind of exposing themselves. You were seeing their true colors. You're kind of seeing how like some people were genuinely monsters, like awful people.
I think that...
And I think that's what this movie was trying to do, is like, in the most obvious interpretation, is like she literally was a monster underneath it all.
I definitely will say, at the time working in the food industry, I was quote unquote an essential worker, but I wasn't isolated. Like when we went into shutdown, I still had to go to work every day. I still saw a bunch of people every day, all day.
Yeah.
But I will say that people who were rude and impatient to begin with got even more rude and impatient, and people who were nice and patient got even more patient. I like I said, I like the idea of a lot of the movie like that, but I don't. The execution for me was 100%. I don't care that if it was supposed to be jarring and all that kind of stuff. For me, like, I don't want to say I have sensory issues, but I'm definitely like sensitive to stuff.
Yeah.
So the shaky cam and the screaming, all of that for, at least an hour of the movie all at the same time, I would have shut it off as soon as that started if it wasn't for the show.
Yeah.
Because I just can't deal
I'm with
it.
you. I don't think I'll rewatch it ever.
Yeah.
Or at least anytime soon.
Yeah. Like, I understand that it could have, obviously it was intentional. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been done that way. But if they could have found a different way, I would have been a lot happier with that,
Yeah. Well,
I totally.
There was parts of me like towards the end where there was like, they were in like that amusement park and like the monster was coming out and all this stuff. I was thinking, oh man, like I would much rather have watched this in like a conventional kind of horror movie where it's like not found footage, it's just happening. But then I'm thinking, would it be the same?
Right. Well, no,
like,
because then you would have seen too much and it wouldn't have been as freaky, like.
I wonder if you could get away with like a hybrid approach.
Oh, I'm sure.
But then it's like, what would be justifying the hybrid element?
Well, there were parts where she was offline. They could have done that with regular.
Oh yeah, they could.
That's a great point. See, that's another thing though. To that point, I really appreciated. I think the more I thought about this movie, I was so impressed for how chaotic it was. It was everything was so specific.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when the camera goes out and like what happens and how it's telling the audience like, okay, focus now, but it's also motivated by the characters. So it's like, oh, I love this.
Well, no, like for what it is, for the kind of movie that it is extremely well made.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
He nailed it. Like the way he uses the camera, the way he just like when he knows when to drop the camera, where to put it, when to focus, when to stop. Like it was extremely well made for the type of movie it is. It's just a little jarring for my personal tastes.
Would you guys agree that this is one of those movies that you have to see at least once? Because I think it's a good conversation piece.
No.
Like no.
I might have to agree with Casey on this one. I probably could have done without it. And I mean, the conversation that I think would come out of it, the important conversation is the political thing, like how people are acting in this. And we've already done that.
And
we've lived through
That's
it.
That's a great point.
Well, yes. So it would be between the same kind of people. We would never talk about, if we were to say anything like this to the people who agree with her beliefs, we would not be having a good conversation at all. So there would,
Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
And on the same side, like we are all on the same side of that argument.
Right.
And so it's okay. So we're having a good conversation about it, but is it really a good conversation, or are we just all agreeing with the same thing? Yeah. And so it sounds like a good conversation.
Well, what's funny about that is like
to us, it feels good because we're all agreeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like the movie is so far in her perspective, in her like where she stands and her viewpoints, that you almost need to only have a conversation with people who don't agree with her, because she comes in so strong that if someone were to agree with her, you're almost kind of just like regurgitating her points that she already made in the movie.
Well, I think part of that is that I would have liked her character more like, even if she had those beliefs, she was just so like crude and obnoxious and just a bad person.
Oh, political beliefs aside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah. If they made her character a little bit more just like likable, but then she had these kind of beliefs that were not as easy to swallow.
Can I ask you guys what you think about this? Do you think, and the reason I ask this is because of how she presents herself throughout the movie after certain moments, like at the end when shit goes south and she starts doing like the rhyming, you know, like little like,
freestyling, Danny. It's called freestyling.
When she does her rap music improv with Stretch, it almost felt like it's such a crutch and like a defense mechanism, and that maybe she is like, and that's not to excuse her personality or her behavior. I'm just trying to find like where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me, but not a part of me throughout the movie. I was thinking this, which is I think what made it interesting to watch, even though it was so insane and annoying at parts, was like, is she just awful? And sometimes you just have to accept that there are people out there who are terrible. Is it performance art, like the Andy Kaufman thing? Or is it a defense mechanism that she is so like broken and maybe insecure that she's built herself up to this, that's all she has? Mm-hmm. Again, to a detriment to her and to everyone around her. But like, I don't know. Or is she just, I don't know. There's something in me that's like, there's no way she was just, this character in this movie that leads this whole movie is just supposed to be just so one note, but for no reason. Even
if it's all just a Andy Kaufman type thing, even if it's because she hates herself, she's still a terrible person. So It doesn't negate any of that. She's still awful. And like I said, political views aside.
And I don't even think there's a clear answer.
No.
Yeah.
Political views aside, she was just
I'm just
obnoxious.
Interested in that.
Her, in the beginning, with the political views and the mask thing, and she's wearing that shirt that said libtard, I thought that she was joking. Because she was so...
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought she was going, like, I'm a comedian. No, like, I'm a comedian. I'm going to the UK. It's during this crazy time, so I'm going to, like, put on a performance, like, look how awful Americans are. Mm-hmm. And like, ha, 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 and, like, we move on. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, no. Didn't happen. She committed to the bit, like, to the point where you're like, oh, it's maybe not a bit.
She got kicked out of restaurants. No big deal.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It's so uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But
when I had to, this guy called and complained when I was working during COVID because he came up without a mask on. And I said, I tried to hand him a mask. Or no, I said, do you have a mask that you can put on? And he said, no, I'm not wearing a mask. And then I like handed him a mask. And he said, I'm not wearing a mask. And I said, I can't take your order right here. If you want to go sit down, I will come and take your order for you there. But I can't have you come through the line. And he left. And then he called and complained. And I was like, I could not have been fucking nicer to you. I still told you that you could eat
It's also your policy.
Yeah.
Who is he complaining to?
You're breathing all over the food that's right in front of you. And, you know, like...
Oh, so annoying.
Dummy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, you handled that well, because I give you a lot of credit. That's annoying.
Well, that's what I mean. Ridiculous. Like, even if you don't believe, like I said, I didn't turn him away and tell him that we couldn't serve him. I just told him that I couldn't have him around everybody else. And yeah. I got a few complaints about that because there was a point where somebody was rude to me, I was just fucking rude back because fuck you. That's because that was like,
hey, it was crazy times.
dude, it was so weird. Like when the shutdown started, there were probably 2 weeks. They got rid of a bunch of our staff because they thought that we were going to be slow, and we weren't. We were twice as busy as we were before.
Wow.
And it was fucking insane. That's all.
What a weird time. I'm glad that you have, I mean, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I'm glad that you have this perspective because I truly did not have that perspective at all.
What perspective?
Just like the fact that, you know, stay at home and all that didn't apply to you. Like you actually had to be out there, like
I was glad
on the front lines, basically. You like that?
Oh my God, if I would have had to stay home, oh my fucking God, dude. I can't stay home for 24 hours and not go insane. Seriously, I can't. I hate it. I was glad that I still had to work. I would have gone insane.
Oh, that's
yeah. I was just going to ask if you guys, after watching it, had any idea what I was going to warn you about yesterday.
The poopy.
The poopy!
Oh, okay. I thought that was it.
The poopy and the pukey.
Oh, yeah, the pukey. Yeah. That was after the lady gets her arm in the steering wheel.
Uh-huh.
Oof. Guys, this is a cool movie. I'm sorry. We'll get into it.
The poopy didn't bother me too much because...
Well, you have a baby now.
I have a baby, and I've cleaned the toilets at Cracker Barrel. And
That's right.
Fucking people will come in and like blow shit everywhere.
Old women just point their asshole at the back wall and just let her rip.
And just let it go. I don't understand that.
I worked at a gas station in high school.
Me too.
That bathroom,
the
things I've seen and touched and smelled and breathed in and probably tasted through mini particles in the air. Ugh.
Hey, during COVID, someone shit on the floor right next to the toilet in the restaurant that I worked at.
Fucking idiots.
Casey.
What?
So I met you when you were working at Sunoco gas station.
Yes.
And you went in to clean the bathroom. And you came out and you said something. I don't know if you called them pubies or what the fuck did you call them?
When I was 16?
Pubic hair on the toilet. Yeah. You were
Pubes?
talking about something and you said something about how did it get pubes all over the toilet? Or, I feel like you said something else, but anyways. Okay, so.
People are awful.
Yeah.
They are.
All right, so are you guys ready to meet our monster?
Let's do it.
Angela? There's a lot of monsters in horror named Angela.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So boys are Billy and...
Boys are Billy and girls are Angela.
Who? So we have Angela from...
Night of the Demons.
Night of the Demons.
We have Angela from...
Sleepaway Camp.
Sleepaway Camp. Angela.
Is that it?
Oh, that was terrifying because your computer froze, your video froze, so your mouth didn't move, and I just heard Angela, and I was like,
okay, that might be it, but that's enough.
I'm only getting Night of the Demons and Sleepaway Camp.
God, Night of the Demons scared me so much when I was a kid.
I really enjoy those movies.
I do too.
Okay,
right.
So saying there are so many Angelas in horror is a bit of a stretch, but there are 3 Angelas in horror
that we know of. I'm sure there are
the
more.
lead character in the movie P2 is named Angela.
Oh, that's like Parking Lot 2 or something.
Yeah,
right?
the guy from
I never did
American
see
Beauty
that.
is in that movie.
Wes Bentley.
Yes, Wes Bentley.
Do you want to see the most beautiful thing I've ever filmed?
He's sexy. What?
Homie, that's just a paper bag, a plastic bag.
No. It's
wait,
You okay?
well, what did he say when he saw the dead bird?
in.
In American Beauty?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Anyways.
Do you have an answer, or you actually have
Well, no, because I thought he said, "Do you want to see the most beautiful thing I've ever filmed?" And I thought it was like the life leaving that bird.
I thought that you were actually going to show us like that you got to film him doing something, and I was excited. And
No. So lots of Angelas in horror might have been a stretch, but we have at least 3 Angelas in horror.
Now we should specify that Angela isn't the monster, but there is a monster that looms beneath the surface.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's another...
So to be fair, maybe the monster's name is also Angela.
I do wish that, even though I understand that a lot of it is left up for like interpretation on purpose, but I wish that it wasn't. I would like to know some things.
Yeah. But let's go meet Angela.
Finally.
Vroom vroom.
I forgot, like, Danny said vroom vroom. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, oh yeah, this is a car trouble
Yeah,
thing.
the only car trouble in this movie is this fucking bitch is driving, because she wrecks like 10 times. She just keeps driving into things.
Although I'd argue that Angela has a little bit of a hand in some of the car trouble that
she's fucking smoking a cigarette. She drops in her lap and she fucking smashes into the tree. That is her fault.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
That's
Sorry.
fair.
Angela, our monster in Dashcam, is an old woman who may or may not be 16 years old and is controlled by like a faceless monster with really long fingers, which I thought was like a face hugger when it first came out.
Yeah, it did kind of look like that, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Which
kind of like one of those like a creepypasta kind of monster.
Slenderman.
Yeah. Which I thought would have been cool if it was like just like a spider alien kind of thing with long legs instead of like a human form with just like really long fingers. But it did have like a slug body though.
At one point,
well, that's the thing is that like it shuffles so much, like it's hard to see what it actually looks like.
I think the slug body was supposed to be a bunch of them together.
Oh,
See, I wasn't sure if it had like sort of like Medusa, you know how she's is like upright, but then she has the snake.
Oh yeah, maybe. I just assumed that it was like them kind of coming together, like a society or Slither kind of situation.
Gotcha.
That's just
okay. Yeah. But our Angela bites. She flies.
Well, that's why her mouth is stable.
She's very strong. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
With the staples in her mouth, and she uses Annie's finger to like rip them out.
I wanted to like it, but
God, it was so cool.
Maybe it was my TV, but the blood was like pink.
Oh yeah, it must have been your TV because it wasn't like that for me. No, it looked like blood.
Is that why you didn't like this movie? Was it the coloring?
I mean, I definitely didn't like the pink blood. So she's super strong.
Yeah, she can fly.
Oh yeah.
She can move things with her mind.
No, she can't.
Yeah, she was like manipulating things.
What was she manipulating?
Like there was the part with the car when they drive.
The part with the car. He says the fucking part with the car in this movie where they're in a car.
That was straight up Angela.
Oh, was it?
And then, yeah, she manipulated the car to like just start going into the water. And then even when Stretch gets pulled away, that wasn't like a person picking him up. I mean, you could argue maybe Angela grabbed him and flew away.
I don't remember. It was.
I thought it was implied that she was.
Moving. Yeah. See, I did not. I thought there was just like a struggle in the car, and it just like caused the car to like go forward.
I mean, that's also.
I just thought the dumb bitch drove into the water.
Just as likely. Well, because we weren't a fan of the character, let's just say that anytime the car crashed, it was Annie's fault.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it was.
So many car crashes.
Yeah.
So many. Some like low key, some with few stakes. One that was genuinely so tragic.
That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like That's the thing. It's like this movie, the more I think about it, like when I was watching it, I was not really enjoying myself. And then right after I wasn't really enjoying myself. And the more I thought, I could not get it out of my head.
That's weird.
And then I would just think of like all these moments. And I was like, wait, that was so effective. That was so well done. Like that was more, I'm just going to keep, I've said my piece.
I wish I had your brain.
I'm not going to beat a dead horse. No, you don't.
Well, I wish that I could enjoy more things.
No, it was very effective. The jump scares and all the
See, none of the jump scares got me. Not a single fucking one. But I think I was just on edge the whole time because of all the screaming and the camera and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So I think that might be why.
The first time we meet Angela is in like the restaurant. And see, this is where you start to get a lot of, well, you don't start to get holes in the plot because you think they're going to answer these things. But like, who was that lady, that restaurant owner who was like, can you please take my friend to this location and don't tell anybody? Like, who was she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there were two factions. I think there are the baddies, that is like the cult. And I think there are the goodies who are trying to stop the cult from carrying through, like bringing this monster.
So was she a baddie or a goodie?
And unleashing it. I thought she was a goodie. And maybe there are no goodies, but clearly there are, because there's the woman who's coming after them with the shotgun.
Her mom?
Because you could argue, why are you asking the stranger to transport? But then, okay, that opens up a whole other big question that I had was, or even like, not even a question, but an observation. It felt like, and tell me if you agree with me or not, but it felt like a lot of the movie surrounding like the whole like cult and this monster and all the questions we have, like it was almost like fate was moving everything along. Like the fact that she just happens to go to the UK. She happens to take the car. He happens to be like a Grubhub DoorDash driver. She happens to take that call. Because even to the point when she crashes into the water, she gets out and she's at the place where the cult is and her car's already there. Like everything was almost like written.
So
like it was, the supernatural forces were sort of like willing all of these things to happen.
I mean,
I don't know.
You could say that about any movie though.
Yeah.
But this one just felt so like, you know, Angela just keeps showing up. Like they kept, like they were bound by fate to like meet, you know?
It was the writing. I mean, it was a movie that they wanted Angela to end up.
It was in the script.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was kind of thinking the same thing Casey was, or it's like, that's just how all movies go. You could say that about anything, like whatever choices the characters make. Oh, it was because this pulled them there. I see what you're saying though, about like her by some chance ending up at the place that she was supposed to go.
Right. But Angela probably wanted to.
And then
there.
even going inside. That's true. Maybe they were just driving there.
So,
maybe,
I mean, yeah.
Okay, well, then this brings up the whole telekinetic thing. If Angela could control it, maybe she specifically crashed the car into that body of water to be like, we need to go there.
Yeah.
Angela is actually a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Her mother, who is chasing her, says so. She said, that's my daughter. She's actually 16. And then that is confirmed by Annie, who had seen the tattoo on her stomach, and it was the same as the one on her daughter's picture on her phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is Angela like a sick old lady?
I think that's one of the questions. It's like the unknown that you can almost kind of suss out. You know, like, yeah, we don't get an answer, but clearly she's the host of this demonic creature or whatever the monster is. So I think it's just aging her. I think it's actually like the rules of this creature are it has a host, and by it being in the host, maybe it just has that effect on it. Like it's almost like wearing it out. Like she's expiring because it can only last for so long within that host.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that's why they have to, maybe if like the goodies like could stop her, maybe if Angela's body died, that would actually like cancel out the, you know, the cult's plan to sort of bring this creature to life. maybe it is just like a fight against time.
But like when Angela did die at the end, the monster just like burst out of her.
But it was only after the cultist had Angela with them. They were in that room with like all the paper on the walls, and then they slit their throats at the same time.
Yeah, what the fuck was that about?
I think that's the thing. I think they needed to get Angela to this place.
To get the host?
And everything had to play out. Yeah, to have the host there. And I think if Angela was not there and maybe the body, the human form retired and like aged at this, you know, really extremely fast pace, they would have failed. That was my read on it.
And so another question, why was Angela continually, why did Angela have to keep going after Annie?
I think she needed a ride. Honestly, I really do think that was it. I think she needed transportation because she needed to get to that place of like, you know,
I mean, maybe
the altar, for lack of a better
maybe
term.
the host wanted to take Annie too. I mean, when you're part of a cult, you're always trying to recruit people.
Totally.
Annie was already part of a cult.
And see, that's the thing. Like,
that's a good point.
Oh my God. Like that is it. Like, so like the host or the parasite needed a new host because because Angela was dying. And so I'm assuming like when it got Annie there, it was going to like use her as a new host. Right. But Casey just said Annie was in a cult basically. And that's like the whole thing that I said at the beginning of this episode, like all having like some deeper meaning because like Annie is in the MAGA cult. She's got all those crosses and stuff in her room and talking about the angels. And so she's oddly enough with her, the way she acts, she's religious, right?
Yep.
She's also part of the Jesus cult.
Yeah. Yes. And so I just feel like there was this whole, they're trying to say something like, then like Angela is being like controlled by something. And they're always talking about like the mainstream media talking, you know, that's what the mainstream media would say. Like you're cleaning everything because the mainstream media told you to, like being controlled, like they're pulling the strings or something. And then like this Angela character was controlled by this monster. And there's like a whole cult and like, I don't know. I just feel like there's something there that I can't put my finger on.
I mean,
maybe it's just like the irony
that
someone like Annie who is in this gets pulled into something. And again, to your guys' point, because I was trying to read it as like we're sort of I liked that we were seeing this vile character, but maybe if you had someone who was a little bit more willing to change or grow, maybe she could have, you know, been aware of that. And maybe she didn't have to say it, but maybe we could see that it's like that awareness of like,
like she could have had a little redemption
I get it.
arc.
I'm in a cult and here's this.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. Like there's this self-awareness that comes from her journey in like this big revelation at the end. But there could have been something there.
Well, I mean, I'm probably going to hurt some feelings. I don't know.
I just feel like this movie deliberately didn't want to give these satisfying answers. So, because it's playing into this theme of chaos and disorientation.
I'm sorry to our listeners who are Trump supporters, but they don't understand that they're in a cult and they're set in that and they're not going to change that. And neither is Annie. So,
yeah,
that's a great read, I think, on it. The fact that you could literally witness this horrific thing, like where you're looking at it, like how much worse can it get? And she's still like, kind of unfazed ultimately by it.
That's what they do.
Yeah,
like you've watched the videos of them at the rallies and stuff where people interview them and they literally have no idea what they're saying. Like they'll
crazy.
Show them evidence of stuff and then they'll just ignore it because
the more you know you don't know.
Oh,
so anyone who thinks they know everything knows nothing.
Yeah. I can't
it's
even.
so frustrating.
I can't even start. We can't even start on this because, Yeah.
It's Let's
Anyway.
just point our fingers at Annie. She a bitch. I mean, she's the real monster here.
But okay, so let's jump back to when we were first introduced to Angela. When we find out that she's a monster, is basically in the restaurant where she throws the person who later you find out is her mother. Throws her across the restaurant, and it's off screen, but you have to just at that point you realize that they're the only ones in this restaurant, and you that's where you're kind of like, oh shit, who is this lady? Like, first of all, who is after her, and second of all, like, she's not very nice.
She's not very nice.
She's not. But then she gets in the car. And there's that whole bit about like her mouth starts bleeding and she's just staring at the camera. And I really thought, because like every time a car would pass, like it would get bright, and they use that to their advantage as she slips out the side, which she kind of just like appears outside, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I really thought she was staring at us, and she was staring at us. She was staring at us. I thought right when that light comes by, it was going to go past, and then she was going to be like right up at the camera. And I was like, totally. Oh my God. So that was good.
Did you guys get the impression or were you pretty clear that Angela was the villain, or were there any points where you're like, is she a victim? And they're like, you don't know who and is she like, yeah.
I thought she was a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of thought it was like, she has these powers for whatever reason we don't know, and people are after her, but
maybe exploiting her or something.
Yeah, trying to get her to this place so she's safe. Because that's how they kind of set it up, like at the lady in the first restaurant where she's like, take my friend, she needs to go to this place, and they're like,
right,
on, like treating her all like gentle, and you're like, she was sick. And then it's not until I think when she finds out that her mouth is stapled shut, and Angela like uses Annie's hand to rip him open, and then she like attacks her and tries to bite her.
That she's actually bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the movie is basically just a series of them like having to deal with Angela in the backseat, getting rid of Angela, crashing their car, getting Angela back again, until they ultimately get to that little house at the end. That's like the simplistic way of saying what goes down in this movie, because within all of that, you get some like really impressive, really gruesome, and in some cases really kind of sad set pieces.
Yeah, like the married couple.
Oh God, that got me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's my favorite part.
Yeah, like when he first went through the windshield, and I was like, oh shit, like that's a pretty like good effect for like what this kind of movie is, and like whatever the budget was. I think it was like IMDb says it was $100,000. I don't know. That is not right. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, that's a pretty good effect for what this is. And then the dude lights on fire. Oh. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck?
Horrible. And then you see the wife in the car, and that's the thing too, is like that slow. How do you make something worse?
Yeah.
And more devastating is like, I just thought that was a genius scene. You have the guy go through the window, bad. And the crash enough was bad. Mm-hmm. Going through the window is bad. Can't move, stuck. Gets set on fire. We go around the car, just married. Not only is the wife dead, but the second we go and like get closer, the airbag goes off.
Oh yeah,
like adding like salt to the wound.
That was something that I jumped on that one.
Oh, horrible.
And then she lays the anti-liberal sweatshirt over her dead body.
Oh yeah. So we had pointed out that the whole like look of this movie and the whole like the technical part of this movie is that it's through the dash cam, it's through her camera, and she's live streaming. But every now and then, and it seemed to have been because of Angela's doing, like it seemed deliberate, the camera would like lose internet or access to this live stream, so it would actually shut down. Mm-hmm. So you'd have moments where, I was actually basically my question is, why do you think that happened? Was Angela doing that on purpose? So like, don't look at me. I know people can see me and I don't want them to, or is it just her?
I think it was just
powers
reception.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, because I feel like every time that would happen, Angela was there and she was either looking at the camera or you would always hear a sound.
Okay.
Like technical, like something was going wrong.
Because I was so sensory overloaded most of the time, I didn't pick up on a lot of the things that happened in this movie. I don't remember anybody cutting their own throats.
That's fair.
I don't remember like all the times it cut out. I don't know what was going on before or after. It was just too hectic for me.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize.
No, I mean, that's fair.
Now that you say that, Danny, I didn't realize that. Like, was any time that Angela was on that dash cam, did it cut out? It wasn't live. So like the audience doesn't know what was going on.
No, they saw her.
There were times where it was live because they were commenting on her, but there were moments where, like, when she was floating out of the tree, you would hear this sound effect, and it would basically. That's when it would lose service. And then it would pick up again.
When she was like floating out of the tree, something happened. Somebody said something in the comments. Somebody said something about Stretch. And then somebody else said, yeah, this woman can fly, but let's talk about that guy instead. Because it was funny. I thought it was funny.
Apparently Rob Savage wrote most of those comments.
Really?
For the thing, yeah.
I think that's my biggest battle with this movie was like, I think I was impressed by so many technical and creative decisions that it outweighs some of the more like viscerally obnoxious elements, I guess.
The poo-poo?
Yeah, like
and
the poo-poo and
the vomit?
Just like the poo-poo and the pee-pee and the...
And the old syringe in Stretch's foot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This movie. This is rough. It's a rough movie.
Yeah.
I had a nightmare. I told you I had a nightmare last night.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was in the movie. And it was just like...
God.
I was like crawling around in like muck. And it was just disgusting. And ugh. Thanks a lot, Dashcam.
Well, we find out that the woman who is chasing them this whole time is Angela's mother. And the mother and Annie get into this altercation when Annie's trying to drive away real quick. And her like arm gets stuck in the steering wheel and Annie just like cranks the wheel to the side and it breaks her arm and blood squirts out and she screams and she's like stuck in the steering wheel.
It's great.
That was a great effect.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Unsettling.
My second favorite.
Yeah, kind of like a genius little thing. Like we've never seen that before
No, it's so good.
Even in like an action movie where there's like people fighting in moving cars all the time, and this is happening. Like you've never seen that.
Yeah, like how has that never been thought of before?
Yeah. But then Angela, just briefly after that, rips her mom's head off.
Yep,
just rips it right off.
And that it basically confirms that, or maybe it doesn't confirm. I guess not until Angela comes for Annie specifically, but basically tells you like, oh, this person was trying to protect you, or at least protect the world from what's happening to her daughter.
Yeah. And then they end up at this cool like amusement park thing. And like right after Angela's mom gets her head ripped off, they go into the amusement park and then you see a sign that says, what does it say? Watch your head or something like that. Just like, I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, if it was the UK, it probably said mind your head.
Maybe it did say mind your head. But anyways, they end up in a fucking mirror maze.
Oh, love that.
Oh, yeah, I did like that.
That was intense because those are just crazy. And then Stretch meets his demise. Sorry, buddy.
Sorry,
yeah.
bud.
There's part of me that wants to say poor Stretch, but then there's also part of me that's like, why were you like hanging out with her in the first place? What are you doing? Your wife was clearly, I mean, I guess he was going to get his car, but...
Yeah, I don't think he was hanging out with her. He tried several times to not have her around.
Right.
That's true.
So...
Yeah, just Annie. Man. So
But that's what's so
terrible.
funny is like, if Annie... Now, let's just say we don't really know what this cult or what this monster was. But I could argue that if this monster was brought into existence, it was probably done to bring about the end of the world or something to that effect. I don't think you just summon a monster just for it to like, you know, get a job at Walmart or something. Like there's a purpose. So really,
all the monsters are already there.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe we needed someone as horrible and with zero, just no regard for anyone or anything to be the person responsible for stopping this creature. Because even before it is a creature, like she does things to people, like including Angela when she takes the seat, the headrest from the car, and she takes it off and she puts the spikes into the side of her head.
Yeah.
So maybe we needed someone as horrific as Annie to basically prevent this from getting out of hand.
Did Annie save the world?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we didn't like you. We still don't like you. But are we okay with living with someone like Annie on this planet than having the apocalypse being brought about? You know, it's like, you can't get everything.
Well, are you guys ready to talk about our favorite reveals in this movie? And there's ultimately like the first reveal, but then there is a ton of jump scares and times when Angela pops out. So let's get into it.
What's going on here?
I don't see anything anywhere. That's how they get you. They're under the goddamn ground.
Okay. First things first. Angela throws her mother across the restaurant off screen, but we know it's her. That's where we start to see something's going on. She bleeds in the car, and we find out that like she gets out of the car like really quickly. It had to be some kind of supernatural or
She magic
thing. Yeah.
Supranatural. It's a whole other level above super.
Ah, yes. Is this a thing? Is that a thing?
supernatural.
It's from The Pick of Destiny.
Oh. When she floats down from the tree after Stretch falls out of it, I don't know if like she pushed him out of the tree, probably. We see her in the road when they turn the lights on, and that's like basically the poster of the movie is that she's out of focus. The camera's like focused on the yeah, that's a good visual. The camera's like focused on the raindrops on the window. Okay, then right after that, you get the one where she rips the staples out and she attacks Annie in the car. She attacks them when they're sitting by the wreck and they're improvisationally rapping, as Danny would say. They're sitting by the wreck, exactly. And she like jumps out of nowhere and like starts attacking him. That's what I think. She like bites Annie, right?
Yeah.
She like takes a bite.
That's what threw me off. I thought she bit Stretch because I'm like, how is the main character just going to get like roughed up like that?
Yeah. Angela attacks the mother, rips her head off.
As you do.
In the amusement park, when Stretch first finds Annie and he like does that nasty ass thing where they spit in their hand and they slap each other across the face. That was so fucking gross. But then like Annie's pissed and Stretch is chasing her being like, hold on, I'm sorry. And then like fucking Angela is like right behind him. That was fucking scary. The mirror maze when Angela's hand busts through the glass and grabs Stretch. Stretch has been killed. Angela runs out, steals a car, and she's driving away. And you see Angela running towards the car in just the red lighting of the taillights. That was really effective. That was cool.
I love that.
Then following that, she attacks the car and she gets tied up by the seatbelt. Andy ties her up. And then again, when Annie attacks in the like basement area of the house, 214 Timberline Way. And then finally we have our full reveal of the monster that has been controlling Angela this whole time. So that's a lot to chew on. What's your favorite reveal, guys? I know mine. I know my favorite reveal. The fucking mirror maze when she busts through the glass. That was scary. That's it. It was fucking scary.
Showed her true color. She's a cheater.
She's a cheater. Yeah, that's not how you go through a maze. What about you guys?
I like the end with the monster just because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm with Casey. There were so many moments like you know, like the poster shot is so already feels like iconic kind of with this movie. Even before I saw it, it's just a really great visual.
Yeah.
And then the scene when she's running after the car
Mm-hmm.
was genuinely so unnerving.
Yeah.
And the fact that Annie doesn't see it, I think, is what makes it even scarier. And it seems to last almost too long.
Okay.
But yeah, the monster scene, because I really didn't know what this movie was at all.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it was going to be supernatural, and I didn't know it was going there.
Right.
And I was like, oh, shit, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you find out really pretty early on that she has some sort of powers and that she's strong and she's doing all of this stuff. So that's kind of repetitive. So then the monster thing is totally unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's why I didn't mind not having a lot of things spelled out or any explanations, because it forces you to like think and consider all these things, which is kind of what we're doing now. I totally get why anyone might want more. And there was part of me that like wouldn't mind a little bit more, but given what we got, I appreciated that. And it almost made the monster scarier because I'm like, what was it for? Who were these people?
Yeah.
I guess usually I do feel like that in movies. The less it's explained, the scarier it is, because then you can just make up whatever you want and it can be the scariest thing on the planet.
Right.
But I guess because of how let down I was with everything else in this movie, I wanted answers.
Totally.
That's fair.
I get that.
Well, now it's time for a segment that we like to call The Real Monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
Okay, so there is a clear real monster for me in this movie, and I think for both of you as well. But what else do you guys have besides Annie for real monster?
Yeah, we all have Annie.
Yeah. Well, I said it once and I'll say it again. Aside from just Annie herself, it's also her driving.
Yes. Yeah.
Bad driver.
And she should not be like doing a live stream while driving and freestyling, or I mean, improvisational rapping.
Yeah.
She shouldn't do that either.
Yeah. She sucks. That's really all I have. I couldn't. Yeah.
It's good. I have two technically. One it was Annie, but also just like anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, people in political cults. Basically anyone who is getting their information. I'm not trying to say that I have all the answers, but I know I don't have all the answers. So I'm not going to form such a strong opinion. I am going to listen to experts, and I am going to use common sense. And anyone who is so just hardcore about them knowing their thoughts to be just fucking unshakable fact and truth is so frustrating. And then my other real monster is comments in live streams. Mm-hmm. It's too much.
Yes. Yeah.
It's too much.
Okay, so I will come out and give you one of my real monsters right now. It's the same thing. It's the live chat in live streams, because
it's the same thing.
Half the time, like, you don't know what they're talking about.
No,
they're just like yelling back and forth to each other.
It's just for whoever's talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's just for them.
And I'll try to be
I
like,
just want to say this.
If I'm like reading them at like some point when I don't know, whatever. If I'm reading them and it's like someone will ask a question or like say something, and then I'm like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the person and you want them to like, are you talking to me? It, or are you talking to another person in the chat? Like, are you talking to me?
Talking to me?
Are you talking to me? So yeah, Danny, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Live stream chats.
And I will say one thing I tried to be very like, you know, to give credit to this movie. I was like, okay, they know that this is distracting. So I think they're leaving it up to the audience to be like, when do I want to look at the screen? When do I want to look here? I don't think anything's going to be too necessary in the comments that, like, if I were to not look at the comments, I'm not going to miss something too vital. That said, I do think if the character was a little bit more, like, her personality was a little easier to swallow, you know, that might allow a more likelihood, I guess, for repeat viewings. It could be one of those movies that warrants that, because you're like, oh, I want to read the comments more in this scene because I feel like I was just focused on the movie. But I do think it might be a little harder to do that because of what we were basically spent this whole episode talking about with the character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we kind of we've kind of mentioned earlier, like, we all kind of agree on the same things. And so we talk with people like us. And so even like the comments on those things, it's like they're watching a video with Annie. And so they are fully invested in like what she's talking about, whatever. So the comments are just like trash and just like there's some nasty things in there. And it was almost
Trash,
just like too much.
I 100% agree. I do like to think it was deliberate, and that sometimes, you know, not to sound so pretentious, but like with some art, you need to be kind of uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And if that's the purpose it's going, I appreciated that they like committed to the bit, so to speak. Yeah. As opposed to like kind of pulling their punches. It's like, no, this is the movie that is going to make you uncomfortable. We're going to talk about politics and COVID and the horrible people who were exposed during that time period. And it's going to feel gross. I appreciate that, but it is hard to go. It's the same reason why not the same reason, but like I watched Requiem for a Dream once.
Yeah.
That has stuck with me. I appreciate a lot and I will talk about it, but holy bananas. Like, it's just tough to watch.
Holy bananas.
Yeah.
But it does what it does well, I think. Yeah.
Holy bananas.
Holy bananas.
So I also have conspiracy theorists. And most importantly, the sign on her front door as she's leaving her apartment that has two hands with guns pointed at the reader of this sign. And it says,
I didn't even notice.
Never mind the dog, beware of the owner. And it has two guns pointed. And I was just like, it's on the screen like very briefly. I had to pause it to make sure I read what it said right. And I just like, I
just don't understand people.
I don't either. I don't either.
Is it boredom?
We never will.
Unoriginality? Like,
we never will.
What is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is all that we have for Dashcam. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Fucking Satan. What?
No, I don't have anything really to add. I feel like I said my piece, and
okay.
That's all I have to say about that.
So, listeners, if you have seen Dashcam, please let us know. Tell us your thoughts. Did you like Annie? Did you not care about Annie? Find us on social media at How I Met Your Monster. Where can our listeners find you guys on social media?
Just check them out. I might be on there. I might not. It's at Wolf Mother Casey.
There you go.
And I never leave. I'm only ever on social media at Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Danny Salem. That's SALEMME, 2 M's, like the candy, melt in your butt, not in your hands.
Wonderful. And you can find me on social media at Zach Winsick. So coming up, we have a brand new triple feature. This time, things are getting a little OSHA.
They're getting a little weird in the workplace.
This time, things are getting a little weird in the workplace. We're having quite a few OSHA violations.
Somebody call
OSHA. What, Danny? Say it.
HR, more like HR. You scared yet?
More like HR. You serious about that joke?
HR, you sure I wouldn't be? Because I am.
I really just want to say H.R. Cunningham. I don't know why.
Yeah, it fits.
No, we are talking about occupational hazards. These will be movies and monsters that deal with a character taking a job that is not what it seems. And we will meet the monsters in those jobs. We will be starting off with Ty West's House of the Devil. Great movie, slow burn, but great style. Love it. If you enjoyed X, which has very much the 70s aesthetic, definitely check out House of the Devil, which basically is the same style of filmmaking. Yeah. It's just we're in the 80s.
Yeah, House of the Devil is so stylized, though, that like if you didn't know that it was made now, you would probably just think that it was made in the 80s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Could you argue that Ty West is maybe the most skilled at making his movies feel as though they really are of the time that they're set in?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a gimmick. It feels, feels like time travel.
Right. And Casey, what is our second movie of our new triple feature?
The Last Shift.
The Last Shift.
Yes. And it's actually not, it's not about the woman's last shift on the job. It's actually her first shift on the job. It's just the last shift in that building because they're moving buildings.
Oh, okay.
Guys.
Okay.
This is the crazy world of art. There are layers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not everything comes at face value, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right. Danny, what's our third movie going to be?
Our third movie is The Innocents. The Deborah
Innocents
Kerr
TS.
ghost story based on, The Innocents TS, based on the novel The Turn of the Screw.
Ooh.
Who wrote The Turn of the Screw?
Your mom?
I don't know. I don't have it. Your mom wrote it. Henry James. The Innocents, based on the novel The Turn of the Screw by Henry James.
Okay.
Yeah, The Innocents was actually recently or The Turn of the Screw, I should say, was sort of adapted recently as the second season in Mike Flanagan's Haunting series on Netflix.
Oh,
The
Haunting of
Bly Manor.
Yeah. Okay.
Which actually it's an adaptation of the book, but also kind of the movie too, because they use the same song, which when you see the movie, if you haven't already seen it, you might recognize it from the show.
Okay. Cool.
Get ready to clock in with your clock out.
Clock in with your clock out. And until it's time to clock in.
Wait, we should probably have listeners get out of, they've been in this car having car trouble for 3 episodes. We should probably eject, tuck and roll, whatever it takes to get the hell out of this car, because it's no good.
Yeah, this car's given us nothing but trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing but trouble.
Man.
Like the movie.
Yes, Penis
Dan
Nose.
Aykroyd.
Penis Nose. 6% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That'll be a theme someday. movies with penis nosed characters.
It's like
Evans,
a bully at high school. You're like, "What's up, Penis Nose?"
It's actually
Dan
Dick
Aykroyd's like,
Nose.
huh? What?
We would say Dick Nose.
Oh yeah,
Dick
what's
Nose.
up, Dick Nose?
Yeah.
Or a cockstrol instead of nostril.
Nope.
That's a new one. Never heard that.
It's a thinker.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Now go meet some monsters.